I have got 2 slimline pen kits, satin nickel, 2 pen blanks, this one's Purple Heart, leopard wood. We're going to go ahead and turn a couple of pens. So these 2 little pieces of wood can go into my drill chuck's vise, and I've got a 7mm drill bit. Gonna go ahead and go clear through the center of these. We can go ahead and drill out the other piece too. So I've got each pen with the wood and these little brass tubes, and I'm ready to glue the brass tubes into the wood. And I would just like to say that I'm a CA glue fan when it comes to pens. I don't have any, so I'm making do with 5-minute epoxy. So I've got my 2 pieces of wood and these brass tubes, which I've also scuffed down with a little bit of sandpaper. It gets a better grip when you glue them into the wood. And I'm out of CA glue, which is what I prefer using on pens, so instead I'm going to make do with some 5-minute epoxy. We'll go ahead and mix the 2 parts together. 7mm tubes fit perfectly over a pencil. Now we can go ahead and spread some of the epoxy over each brass tube, and we can glue it in, give it a little twirl, make sure we get that end coated, and then come in from the other end. Right there is basically all there is to it. We'll set that one aside to dry, and we'll do the same thing with the rest of the tubes and blanks. That's it. We'll go ahead and let these dry up for maybe 10-15 minutes. Then we can move on to the next step. So here are the 2 pen blanks that we cut up last night. I've let the epoxy cure overnight so it is nice and solid. Now what we're going to do is barrel trim the ends of the blanks flush with the brass tube inside. And I've got my 7mm barrel trimmer on my drill press. This is going to do 2 things. It's going to make sure that we have a nice flat end to work on so that the blank meets up with the hardware later on when we assemble it. And it also is going to clean up any dried epoxy from the inside of the blanks so that we get a nice fit while assembling the pen. So we can go ahead and put these guys into the drilling vise and get to drilling. So you stop when you see the brass tube on the other end. Go ahead and turn it around and do the other side. And that's it. Now we can go ahead and put these on the lathe. I'm rocking with my mini lathe here today. I've got my pen mandrel with my slimline pen kit bushings. And I've got one of these little pen centers here, so I don't need to use that little brass nut on the end of the mandrel. So we'll go ahead and tighten this guy up, get a fair amount of pressure in there, and bring up our tool rest. This right here is a little dust collector setup for smaller projects like this. It's from Rockler. Put some links in the description to it. Pretty cool. But we'll bring this up as close as we can to our work. Turn on the dust collector. I'm going to be using some of these little carbide cutter tools to turn down the blank. I've got a round one and a radius square. So let's do it. That looks pretty good. Now what we're going to do is using one of these carbide tools. Sort of bring a small curve around, and you could put in detail if you want to. Here's a pen I did a while back, and I did some little ridges and beads, and it came out pretty cool. But I'm just gonna bring a simple little curve around, and I wanna turn down the diameter of the ends to the diameter of the bushing. That way everything lines up with the hardware when I assemble it. Here we go. Okay, this looks pretty awesome. So now what we're gonna do is, I actually saw a video really long time ago by the RJB wood turner where he turned a little pen out of some Purple Heart, and he actually used a blowtorch and sort of just burned the wood and scorched it, and apparently it brings out the purple color in the wood. And I just so happen to have a blowtorch on me, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this thing. Whoop. That really burns it quick. You know what? Maybe I should sand this first. I think the grain is a little hairy right now, and the fibers are burning up like it did right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand it down nice and smooth, and then we'll try the burning. So now we've got some of this really incredible and rare material. We're going to use this to buff out a finish. And for the finish, I use Hut PPP Perfect Pen Polish. It's like carnauba wax, friction polish, really good stuff. So here we go. Oh yeah, that is a pretty wicked shade of purple. Now with this finish right here, the Perfect Pen Polish, it is a friction polish, which means that when you polish it with paper towel at a really high speed, it will melt, it'll get really, really hot, and it will sort of soak into the pores of the wood. And the more and more coats of this stuff you apply, the more durable the finish and the better it's gonna look. So I am at about, I think it was 7, maybe 8 coats of this stuff. And I'll stop there for right now. So we can go ahead and take this guy off of the mandrel. And we can assemble these now. This right here is my pen press. If you do not have a pen press, you can use the tailstock of your lathe or a bench vise. I've even used a quick grip clamp to press all the pen parts into the pen. So all the hardware in the pen kit we can take out of the bag. We've got an ink refill, a cap, a tip, a clip, a little band, the twist mechanism, and a set of instructions on how to assemble the pen. All these parts are really, really tight. They're just friction fit. So that's why you need a press or something with leverage to get them in. And that is the top half right there. Now we can take the point, the little tip of the pen, press it into the lower end of the lower half of the pen. And that is that part. Twist mechanism, this little brass end here has a little line. You want to press it to that line and stop. And you can test the fit with the ink refill just by twisting it in. And you can see on the first try we've got a pretty respectable fit. You want it to go all the way back into the pen, and you want it to come out far enough to write with. The very last thing to do on the pen is take out this little ring. It slips over the twist mechanism, and you take the top half and press it over it like a cap, and that is it to making the pen. This one was the pen I turned out of Purple Heart. I've actually got the one I turned out of Leopardwood. I didn't film this one because they're both the same exact thing, and I thought it might get a little boring, but you can see they're both the same pen kit. Really, really easy project to do, really rewarding, and they are awesome gifts. Okay guys, that is it for the project. They really came out nice. Like I said, they are awesome, awesome gifts, and that's what these are for. People enjoy them. It's a really unique project. Really cool pens. So that's it. Subscribe, like, comment. Check out some of my other videos around here, and stay tuned for my next video. I'll see you all then.